Hello, everyone. We are back with another exit interview. I am joined by my co-host, Alex Trias. Yay! And always, Lilly Petzold is here to ask the questions. And we are joined by my number one draft pick, always. And he tells me it is a bad idea, but it's Shea. So excited. You and your hot tub are back.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first question is you had some of the best confessionals. We see Hot Tub Shea, we see Professor Shea. What inspired you to have fun with these confessionals? Because this is what's fun for us viewers and production to spice up what we're seeing while watching the episodes.
Sure. I mean, honestly, I feel like it's an opportunity that I've seen in previous games where I'm like, some of the confessionals is just straight. It's almost treated as like something that's just a responsibility as part of the game. And I didn't look at it that way. Like these things are entertaining. They're not only meant for our entertainment, but then people are watching them, right? And I wanted to make good TV in the way that I thought that I could. And so like, it wasn't the other side of this coin is for anybody in the future, it's not high effort. It was literally just me every day being like, all right, where's something new? Oh, it's raining today. Let's just go sit out in the rain. Like it's not that bad, like go find some trees, right? It was very minor. Like everything took 5-10 minutes for a setup, right? And so like it was fun that way. The Professor Shea one did go a little bit out of control, but I was already writing everything down of what I thought on a whiteboard. And I'm like, why am I not just doing this as a confession? So that was the origin there.
Yeah.
And there we were.
And you're one of the few. I mean, we've technically seen you twice on our screens. You got a little bit of time in Monte Carlo.
Enough to find an advantage. I mean, hey.
Yeah, enough to find an advantage. And they did the one world at the beginning of that season. So you were in the time when you could talk to everybody. Were you afraid that this would kind of put a target on your back? Or did you think, were you trying to pull a Mike where just saying, I wasn't in Monte Carlo? You know what I mean? I don't have any connections.
No, I honestly, I overstate all that sort of a thing. I feel like people make a lot of assumptions, and it's the ones that you don't know that get you as far as those connections go, right? Well, I do think that like you can be aware that people may play a game together and that like that could connect them. A la like, I mean, you even saw it with me getting in with Sarah and Lex, right? They just had a comfort level, so they naturally kind of, even though they didn't necessarily want to work together purposefully, just that comfort level right out the gate when there's so much chaos starting a game naturally drew them into each other, right? So like you have to be a little bit of aware, but once you start to get into a game, I feel like that gets thrown out the window in the same way that we know who challenge threats were, and halfway through the game we're like ignoring the fact that people like Simmons are a challenge threat because they sucked for 4 challenges in a row. Yeah, I mean it's moved so fast. I didn't really think that heavily on it. And just kind of owning up to things to me is like a good way to build trust.
Yeah. And you mentioned Sarah and Lex, but just, want to poke your brain about the people on your original tribe, because we do hear a lot in the beginning episodes, you kind of peg Lex from the beginning that he's in with everybody and you're trying to figure out the dynamics. And so where do you fall in between all of that as you guys really aren't going to tribal council in the beginning?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it was funny. I felt like what I was aiming to do early on, I did well in that I didn't look for any major alliances. I was kind of playing a different sort of a game where I wanted to be everybody's number 4 or 5. You know what I mean? Somebody that nobody really wants to target and, that wouldn't be jumping out there like Lex did. Obviously getting in with somebody like Alex is important then, because part of the issue with that is at that sort of a level, you're not necessarily being the one being fed information, and Lex is addicted to feeding information. So, it's you just get him in a room and sit there, and not say as much, and he will fill that space. And so like I felt like that was an important relationship for me to have. Now, obviously, he didn't value me as highly as I probably did in the game. But that was, I mean, part of my factor too of not really pushing for, super tight alliances right out the gate.
Yeah, when like putting you guys on the same tribe, I was like, this is either gonna be like a clash of big personalities, or Shea's gonna take that step back, because figured Lex would not. But I was like, Shea has that ability to like take that step back and watch and listen. And it was interesting watching you navigate your original tribe.
Yeah, and I definitely felt like that's what I did to a small degree. Now, I still think I, put myself out there as a big personality, but
Yeah.
I think what kind of went a little bit under the radar was I jumped out as a big personality, and then once everybody pegged me as like a little bit of a big personality, I did not push that. Like, I did not try to be outrageous. I still tried to be silly and a little goofy and self-effacing, and you know what I mean? Here and there, I'd put some splashes in of it, right? But like I wasn't how to put this, as pervasive as a Lex, like even reaching out and making sure that like I'm constantly entertaining people and getting in with one-on-ones with them. Like I allow there to be space to breathe. And that's kind of a goal there too, because it's, great being a big personality, but sometimes, especially like working with people who are a little more introverted, it can be a bit much, right? I didn't want to be too much.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of too much, I actually took a note that in episode 3, in a confessional, you say you're worried that you came on too strong to Jeremy, which I thought was surprising because, like you said, I mean, even from Jeremy, we only hear good things. So what really made you think that, and did that kind of alter how you changed, maybe talking to, like you said, the more introverted people?
It did, and it really shifted the game. When because there was a domino effect there that like really wasn't necessarily seen. So I had conversations with him and it felt like it was good, right? And we like were relating. But he's fairly introverted and he doesn't necessarily like let those emotions out. So like it's kind of tough sometimes to see a vibe. And I was pushing fairly hard because at that point I really wasn't. The only 3-person alliance I had was Lex and Sarah. I knew it wasn't a major one for them. I knew I was, even third on that rung within that. We had like alliances of 5, but like unlike Lex, who probably promised everybody the moon, this entire game, I never made a single promise to anyone. I never explicitly said we're going to final 2, we're going to final 3, blah 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 blah, anytime, right? Which was kind of a weird strategy for me. Usually I try to do that a little more. And I realized, okay, well, I maybe need a little bit stronger connections. And Jeremy was like the only one who I felt like was still a little bit of a free agent in this. Like he probably had some connections and I wasn't sure who he was super tight with, but I'm like, I would actually love to actually be in an alliance with him. And I pushed him and I said, hey, let's do something. You name a person. I feel like I'm pretty good with everybody, but not great with anybody. If we can work together with somebody, I feel like that would really do well for my game and probably yours too. And he just kind of blew it off. He didn't name a name. He didn't try to give me anybody, and because I hadn't like talked with anybody ahead of time to like confirm that who that one person would be, other than a short conversation with Lex, and I didn't want it to be Lex because I knew Lex would overtake that. And so I didn't really have a name to shout out there either to him. And I felt like, all right, like I put myself out there and it wasn't responded to, so I backed off. The domino effect was that when we had a swap, I would have, if it would have been any better of a connection, Andrew's gone and not Jeremy. And we may have another number, going into merge, right? And maybe us 4 are actually a little tighter. And, Jeremy already has some of those connections with some of the people who ended up targeting me, even later on, that Jeremy could have been in a little better in with a, Ashley Kylie sort of thing. But anyway, but who knows? Yeah. That's how the game goes.
Yeah. And
we had to get rid of him. So I made sure he was gone.
We talked with Jeremy, for his exit interview, and at one point he said like, I should have worked with Shea, like I should have like broken that like wall that wall I had up with him, because you are a gamer, you are like a personality, and like breaking that wall to like work with you. So
we're both in the letter brigade, you know what I mean? Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah, like and I feel that like I would have worked for it too at that time. I mean, what maybe behind the scenes wasn't necessarily seen was I recognized where my place in the game was heading into the merge, and recognized that everybody was okay with me, but I wasn't great with anybody, and that was a real risk to me. So like I knew that I could never trust saying that I'm the number one to a Zucker or Ashley. I knew they probably already had somebody on lock, right?
Yep.
They're just too charming and too sociable. And I felt I was being gamed by them a little bit. And so I was just looking for anybody to kind of, grasp onto. I tried with Andrew. I tried, you saw it with Austin M, right at the time of merge, with Jeremy. And it just didn't quite work out each time because I think people had other plans and other alliances. And frankly, I might have shot myself in the foot a couple times being a little too chaotic that everybody's like, I don't want to partner with somebody I can't trust. You know what I mean? That they're going to actually do what they say. So, but yeah, it was fun to play. What happened?
Well, I have a question that kind of jumps ahead, but because we're talking about it, do you think had you maybe had a solid like final two deal, maybe from the second day from somebody on your original tribe, that when you eventually way later in the game go to exile, they're there to kind of stop your name from going out? Because we don't really hear a lot of Shea until I guess your episode, and nobody is really like, oh, let's not do Shea.
There's a sprinkling in the chaos of the Lex Kylie as well, where he's like little danced around, but not the main name.
Right. Not until, he's voted out. And I think the biggest detriment to your game was you didn't have someone to say, well, we should wait for Shea. Nobody wanted to kind of like stick their neck out for you to say no. And so do you think that had you maybe made a closer connection with, let's say, Ashley or Zucker earlier on, that they might have done that? Or you still think there was nothing you could have done after exile?
Not a chance. What you saw here was a lot of, I felt like, very strong setup relationship play from a number of players in this game to give themselves options A, B, and C. A lot of like good relationships and sub-alliances and maybe even, you know what I mean? Like there's no even A because they're in a 3 over here and a 3 over there and they both feel good about either of them, right? Whichever goes. And so what ends up happening there is that you have people who never want to stick a neck out because what's the point in risking anything for anybody? You just move on to your next option. And I think we saw a little bit of that where now if I had followed that same strategy, I feel like, and doubled up and been in some tighter groups of 3, like if I had Ashley and Zucker one and then one other one, if I would have gotten out of my own way in working with Kylie, for instance, I would have been fine, right? Like I just needed enough of the groups that felt like they were tight enough with me that wanted to work with me to the end, to be able to save me. But I don't think it was going to happen. I mean, I was surprised to hear my name float out there too, mainly because I made it very clear that I wasn't coming with some master strategy. I wasn't trying to aim. I didn't try to come off as a game player or a master strategist. You know what I mean? Who's trying to eliminate specific people at any time, right? I really tried to look like that casual, more fun player who like is a little bit less of a threat. You know what I mean? He's never going to come for me. Why get rid of him? And somehow, I don't know if it was Kylie or who, floated my name around as like that loose lips that could sink a ship sort of an idea, you know what I mean, of spreading information. Which, by the way, the only time I ever said any piece of information I got to basically anyone else was just during that one phone call where Zucker told me about Lex, and I said, should I tell Lex? And he said yes, so I told Lex. Right? Like, so like otherwise, I mean, that was part of the reason why people weren't getting in super tight with me early on, is because I wasn't jumping into a phone call and info dumping on them. You know what I mean? A couple times a piece of information here and there, but like overall fairly tight-lipped. So I think it was a false, you know what I mean? Like it was a great little narrative that really bit me in the butt when I wasn't there to defend myself on it.
Yeah.
And kudos to them.
Before we get too far into the merge, I want to jump back to your Monte Carlo days, and we hit the high rollers room in this season. You entered the high rollers room before. That's where you got your advantage from. Yes. So, what made you not want to go this time and have the low rollers room?
Sure. Just try positioning. It was really in a game of all-stars where you're looking around and you're seeing pre-merge boots and none of them are the major threats. Like don't get me wrong, kudos to, Corey and, I think even Danny and a lot of other people could have been, great and done big things in this game, but they weren't Simmons, who ran off, and did a number of different immunity wins in his seasons previously. They weren't Karen, who already won. They weren't Lex with the huge personality. They weren't Kylie, who everyone knows is sharp. There was threat after threat after threat. On our tribe, Ashley was good with everyone, super tight, right? Like, not even under the radar with it. I did not want to put my name on anything. I did not want people to see me as that person who has an advantage, or and that was an oversight of mine too, and that little impulse at the merge of even going to exile. And if I would have had that thought run through my head of, oh, somebody will think you have something after this, I probably wouldn't have done it. I just didn't have the thought. But yeah, that's why. And it made sure that if we could keep all 5 of us, it gave us the options that no funny business would happen. Andrew and Jeremy would both not go, even though they both knew they were on the bottom. So I had to be solid in that.
So prior to the night of merge, like you have your merge, you have the full night, and all the chaos happens. Like prior to all of that, because you talked about earlier about how you had your 3 of Kylie and Lex, but you knew very much well that they have other stuff cooking. I'm number 3, I'm number 4. But like if push came to shove, and as the night came on, it was very clear going to the next day, push was coming to shove, a decision was going to need to be made. Which side did you feel either you were feeling better connected to, there was a better path, a bigger shield? Like, was there anything in your mind going up to that point of like, if I have to make this call, I'm picking this side over this side?
Oh, between Lex and Kylie?
Yeah.
Lex, 100%. And that's mainly just because I never felt the whole time I could trust Kylie. Early on, I kind of like, she's so good, and I knew she was getting information, and she really wasn't giving me anything. And that's why I started to move away from her early on in our original tribe. And it's and I just knew too that nobody wanted Lex going anywhere, right? Like everybody I talked to, there was always a shelf life on Lex. Whereas Kylie, is a little bit more of an enigma, right? Like she just has the capability to surprise you, which she did to everyone this season, right? She totally rocked the boat. So exactly what I thought could happen did happen, where like this person wanted something to happen and made a huge pull and a huge move. Now I should have had a little more foresight around that, like I said, and still like come like just like Jeremy said about me, I should have overwhelmed that taken back that thought process and still worked with her anyway and made her feel comfortable and good with me. Just because you have to respect that threat level, right?
And that brings up another thing of in the pre, you guys before the swap, outside the Austin M vote, you only go to tribal once, and Corey is the one who eventually gets the bullet. I know there was talks of like splitting between Jeremy and Garsow, then Corey makes himself this big target. But amongst all the conversation, amongst all the movement, it's very clear that like Corey and Kylie are talking a lot. And if there's already a preconceived notion amongst some people on the tribe that like Kylie is this big threat, was there any consideration at all of like, maybe now let's just chop the head right then and there, we can deal with Corey after?
Yeah, I thought about that. The issue was, I mean, this is a game built on social credit, and you have to be careful where to spend yours. And that one to me would have been far too divisive, because you're leaving Jeremy, you're leaving Corey, you are having to convince Ashley and Lex, who I know are at that point in a tight 3 with them. You have to figure Jeremy's close with somebody, and I knew it wasn't Sarah, and I knew and so I figured it might have been Kylie, and I think he was. So like trying to be able to get the numbers to be able to go after a Kylie, I think would have been tough. We had that group of 5. But I don't think they would have, like, Lex especially wouldn't have gone for it. At that point too, I felt like it was more beneficial for my game to kind of see this. Lex hears his name and goes, full blood rage, right? That's somebody. I wanted to get that narrative out, because I wanted to be able to use that as a bullet for later, doing some shifty things at merge. because I knew all I need to do is tell Lex, I heard your name from somebody, and I know he'd go crazy. And I knew that I could lie about that, about anybody, you know what I mean? And put that on anybody just to create chaos. I also knew that I could flip side, use that to try to convince people to be wary of partnering with Lex if he started to get too strong around the merge, of saying, hey, be careful, because this is all it's going to take. Like, he was talking actively with Corey the whole day. We were on Tribes with Corey, and next thing you know, he just hears from one person that Corey said his name, and, you know, the rest was history.
Yeah. Well, and going into the merge, I guess a little bit before, right? We see Professor Shea. He's breaking down everything from your original tribe. Like, you got to unlock. And then all the information from the other original tribe is from Andrew. And Andrew did this nice little dance around when he provided your info, saying, you know, we're not really close. We did a lot of voting blocks. People are always left out. Were you ever concerned that the information you were getting from him wasn't true? That maybe this group of 5 that are going into the merge might be closer than they're letting on, because like we kind of allude to, they've been voting together, you know, they're in the minority, so it's in their best interest to stay together through these next couple votes. But it seems like no one is really considering that they could come together at the merge. Was that ever a concern for you, or did you feel like Andrew was more on your side?
I felt like at that point I was put in the position of who would be more likely to work with me in the future, Andrew or Jeremy. Neither of them seemed great. I knew Jeremy didn't want to work with me prior. So like, it was basically just that aspect of Jeremy not wanting to work with me that made me steer away from Andrew and just hope that he would be open to it. Did I trust everything that he said? No. Did what some of he said align with what Garsow had told us? Yes. So like, I knew that there were elements of truth in what he was saying. I expected the fact that since he, you know, was pretty safe, that he made it that far, that like, and that he's fairly social, and you could tell like he's good at playing a little bit of airhead, but he's not, right? That he definitely had more going on than what he was telling me, and that there are relationships there. But my hope was I could use that, right? Like, the hope was, hey, like, let's use each other. You know this side, I know this side. Together, we could actually do something here. And that's part of what I was hoping to pitch to him. And we never quite, I think, got enough time to really build that sort of trust and relationship. But it would have been great if it would have worked.
Yeah. And let's talk about the big hoopla of right before merge. It's scrambling, people are up all night, but then we hear about this code, right? I feel like I've been talking about this code a lot that you guys kind of built for the mini game, right? This is your way of prepping. How was this supposed to work, and what did you think?
What was the code? Yeah, break it down.
Yeah. And then when people heard about it.
The code. First of all, I hated the code. I have to say this. I knew it wouldn't work. I knew that it was like over strategizing, but I also knew that Ashley loved the idea and really wanted to go for it, and Zucker didn't seem to mind, and it was a little bit of a passion project. So here I am, sure, right? And if it could work, fine, let's go for it, right? But like, I also knew the fact that if you watch gameplay from like our pre-merge, there's a number of people who are kind of guiding and leading into votes, right? I know that I am slyly saying names a couple of times. Like, I would basically lead people right into a name without explicitly saying it. I know Lex was doing the same thing. I know Kylie was, you know what I mean, talking names. 2 people who never said a freaking thing, Zucker and Ashley. They were milquetoast as far as that goes. No risk players. So like, create a code for what? Like, they're not, if thing is starting to go awry, I didn't think that they would be the ones to be like, it's a 7. Let's do something quick to make something impactful happen. No, they're going to go along and try to figure out how to pivot next time. So, but fine, I'll go along with the code. So the code basically was, all right, we need a way to understand who the real target is if we always have the target or somebody who's an ally with a target in the room. So we just decided, hey, what should we use? Should we use animals? Should we use this? And somebody just suggested, I think it was like numbers, right? And we just went through, and named everybody who was still there, and then we put the number to them. There was no logic as to the numbering system from memory. And then like at that point, I'm having fun and we're goofing off. So I'm like, let's make another couple phrases out there, right? Just in case things are happening, like it's one of us or this sort of thing. Like what I have this philosophy in life. It's much more fun to buy in than it is to resist. So once I get into something, let's fucking go. Let's do the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, let's go way overboard. Let's make it outrageous. So I even pushed that. Now, like, I didn't think too much of this code. And then this code ends up blowing up this game. And it's like, what the hell? And not to mention that, but I'm going to flame Lex right now. What the hell, drama queen Lex? I'm looking at you, Lex. What the hell? You didn't have enough drama on your Brittley vote that immediately you need to find a reason to flame Zucker? Like, we had like a 4-person that was like pretty decent. Like, why are you, like,
the name was Maddie. Like, why did it have to be you?
Yeah. Like he knows better. I feel like he just got so wrapped up playing this game for like a week and a half ready for the merge. That like it just caught with him and the emotions ran and it, you know what I mean? Like it spiraled because it was really unnecessary drama. Because if that doesn't get so rocky, then I don't think you have all these like crazy secondary phone calls with like 5 different people and then information flowing back and forth and the weird awkwardness that happens even on those calls, right? And then I think Lex was getting targeted either way. But it would have kept things a little calmer and kept people who were his allies, even if they weren't the tightest allies to share every single piece of information, they were still allies, right? Of a certain degree. They weren't going against you. And now you're bringing their name up. And that's how like a Zucker and a me, Ashley, like all of our names got thrown into that pot. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think it's the over worry of going into a mini that caused that blow up, right? Everyone's like, well, we have 12 hours, so I want to use these 12 hours to prep for the mini.
Just go to sleep.
Yeah, like just go to sleep. Just
chill. I mean, like that was it. Like it was one of those weird, like I understand people trying to even form their relationships and do those sort of things. But man, people were so hungry to play big, for a few people like Kylie and Lex, and it just ate them up.
From your position, how did it go and transform from, all right, so we're going to do Maddie and maybe split on Austin Moorhead. Okay, cool. Good night. To, oh my gosh, it's Lex or Kylie now. Like that is the vote. And then, scrambling to try and find out where it's leaning. So how did your role play and how did you see that go down?
None. I played no role. No, I mean, honestly, like, my goal going into the merge was to be a small fish. I was shocked by the people's viewpoint of simultaneously, like, keep this in mind now. How does this work? Simultaneously, I'm betting, at one point you reached out around that merge and said, everybody, name where you trust Shea in this list, 1 to 9. I bet I never made it over 5 on anybody's number. And that was kind of on, like I said, a little strategically there of like, I don't think like I'm really popping up either as a threat or as an ally. I can just float in the middle. And because that was where I wanted to be to create chaos. Because that's where you end up when you have 2 different sides that pop up is hopefully you kind of sit more in the middle. Now, like we go to bed and I'm thinking chill, even if it's not Maddie, you know what I mean? Like somebody will start to target or get with those 3 and flip, but I'm probably not going to have to worry too much, right? Even if it's like a Lex. And I wake up and obviously Kylie had different plans, did exactly that, right? Like rallied some troops. And it is Lex. And I actually didn't have a problem with really with it being Lex outside of, all right, then fine. What's your next thing? Like, don't give me a 1 vote strategy coming into this that just blows the game up because it puts everybody at risk. And that's exactly what she had. I don't think she had a real strategy after that. So it's short-sighted in my mind.
I will say, I just went into the spreadsheet to check about the best position to win, trust the most. For those who submitted, the most common answer for you was 5.
Exactly. Right.
You did great for what you wanted to do.
Which is what I wanted. When you get to final 7, right, per se, and you're looking at like, okay, we can't have these people go to the end. I was never going to be one of those people who you can't take to the end. That was my goal. Don't make myself into a Lex. Don't make myself into a Simmons. Don't make myself into a Karen. Okay. And second we're going to have to try to flip or do something. I think he's probably open to it. Right. And so that's why I was trying to sit at that 5. Like, you don't distrust me, so maybe you can trust me.
Smart.
Yeah. Well, we get to the merge challenge, and exile is brought up, and I know you mentioned it very briefly, but my question, which I think a lot of the viewers question, we mentioned high rollers room. Why did no one but one person go to the high rollers room, in your opinion, but 3 of you try to drop out to go to exile for potentially something, right? It seems like equal risk. People know you went for it just as they would have for high rollers room. The only difference is it's individual versus you're still on that tribe back for the other one. So you didn't have a lot of time to think about it, like you mentioned. So why did you decide to do that? And looking back, would you have done it again?
Sure. Okay, I'll answer that in 2 parts. First, the high rollers room was high risk at the time, smaller tribes. So if you go, it's much more noticeable. I also think like there's not a huge benefit to going if you are in fairly good power at that point, because people were more concerned of losing something. It was made very clear you could lose something going to high rollers room. That's a big difference than just going to exile, where at most you're out for the time for that round. Okay, so that's a big difference there. I know for me personally on our tribe, we worked hard to convince everybody not to go. We kind of social pressured of like, if you go, you're going to be the vote. Specifically to try to reduce the amount of variability and chaos that could happen on our little tribe of 5. Now in the challenge, 3 of us dropped, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was me, it was Kylie, it was Lex.
Yes.
We knew going into that Kylie and Lex were going to be in a face-off. Now I've had shoulder surgery. I wanted to compete. I lifted my arms up just to kind of even see like what it would feel like. And in 20 seconds, I had severe pain. And I've been told not to do it. So I'm like, all right, I know I'm not going to win this challenge. That's out, right? Meanwhile, you guys are all still talking, and we're getting near to the point where we're going to have to go. So like, I'm not really having much time to really consider what my options are here, other than I know I can't win. And so in an impulse move, without thinking about the fact of there could be something else there, going to exile makes me a target potentially, and most importantly, just not being there to be a part of conversation and exert the small amount of influence I have, I think to myself, well, we don't necessarily have a plan right now, but I think Lex has okay numbers. Remembering from our old tribe, we still had 3 people I know we were aligned with there. I thought he was pretty tight with Garsow. That at least I'll give him a fighting chance with Kylie, so that Kylie doesn't just drop and now the target's still on Lex and there's no other option, right? So in the impulse, in that like 5-10 seconds of just knowing the fact that I can't win, I drop my arms. Would I do it again? Absolutely not. With any real thought, I would have realized, oh shoot, this makes me a target, exactly the thing I didn't want to do and been avoiding the whole game. It loses 1 number for Lex, is with the person I wanted to keep, right? Dumb. I should have stayed just so I could be positive influence for the person I want to stay in the game, because I did have I at that point believed Lex and a lie to me that Kylie had mentioned my name. So like I definitely had a dog in that fight, and it was Lex. Yeah, a number of reasons that were just short-sighted for me for dropping. So if I would have learned like the night before, I probably would have thought through it and just stayed in and dropped after 20 seconds,
I do think it was smart in the I want to give Lex that fighting chance, because I slowed down the footage. You won by 2 frames to go to Exile Island, with Kylie being that second one. So I do see the logic of, let me take that away from Kylie and make her still vulnerable. So I feel like that is a smart move, if only it wasn't you specifically doing it. If it was someone else
Yeah.
So
I mean, the flip side of that, though, is that if, like you continue to think, and that was the thought process in my head and seemed like the best idea, and I dropped. And then I think, well, wait, what if I would have let Kylie win? Now we have a whole round to talk trash about her, right? And try to get people onto us.
Yeah.
And the only other default vote that was out there was Maddie, which was who I wanted anyway. So we're like, I basically allowed there to continue to be this false choice of Lex v. Kylie, where I could have removed the false choice and had it be open to everybody. And now we go, wait a second, this is all chaos. Let's stop the chaos and let's just focus in. And would have worked, who knows, right?
And I know that with some players that you were like working with, it would have been harder to make this go. But in a world where you just had all that mess with Kylie, and it's still like, we'll see what happens. But like, you have those people on the bottom, you have that bottom three. But wouldn't there have been more incentive to be like, but who's really close to Kylie? It's not those people at the bottom. It's like, let's take a strike at Karen right now. Let's remove Karen from the board. And potentially you get, maybe not Ashley, but you probably get Garsow, Lex, Zucker. And then if you tell it to those people on the bottom, like you tell it to Maddie, who has no relationship with Karen at this point in the game, like suddenly you have this whole move. Kylie comes back with with very little power anymore.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that would have been ideal. I mean, but at that point, I mean, the Karen Kylie relationship was completely unknown.
Right.
The other side of the coin is that I play a ton of board games. That's my thing, right? Dozens of board games, play hundreds of board games a year, right? Multiple a week. And what I found is often best is when you decide on a strategy, stick to it. What never works is saying, I'm going to go this strategy. I'm going to go super aggressive. And then it starts to kind of not work a little bit and you bail. Because now you're not in the best of either world, right? You set yourself up to do this thing, and then you did another thing you can't really do either. And it's the same approach that I took here to Survivor. So being an aggressive Survivor player of putting out people in targets was not necessarily the role that I wanted to play. And so to me anyway, like that was where I'd never would have forced even a name. I would have definitely thrown out false vote probably right away. Put somebody's name out there that was unexpected, just to start to create paranoia. I definitely had plans. My target was kind of not necessarily like that 11 range or 10 range, but like 9, 8, 7 was really where I wanted to dive bomb rooms. That was kind of the next fun thing that I had planned, was like dropping into a breakout room going, guys, I just heard it's, and then dropping out of the room. Right. And just kind of like, yes, doing these little tiny bits of chaos. And I was robbed of that. Yeah. Like specifically trying to target people one-on-one for it too. Right. Not even dropping in with like 3-4 people in a room, but just one, because a lot of times that can feel very personal and real and create paranoia. And that's really what I wanted to do, is create more paranoia. And to do that, you can't be pushy for a name. And then of course immediately everything goes to shit and I have to start to be pushy because I know that I'm on the chopping block. As soon as I come back in from exile, the vibe was off. I haven't played many minis, but I know when there's a sense of urgency because people are unsure. And I come into rooms and there's no urgency, which means people are already sure, but you're talking to me like, who should we target?
Yeah. I have a question for both Shea and Lilly. You guys got to bond during Exile Island. How was that whole experience for you both? I know you rearranged your furniture. You listened to some jams. How was Exile Island, guys?
Underrated. Exile Island is a blast. Lilly is a great partner to have there. It was fantastic. We had a good little joking around time. I tried to be sassy doing the puzzle, which just comes off as mean, I think.
Honestly, as the editor, I appreciated you talking. I appreciated you talking through the puzzle, so it made it a little less boring to sit and watch someone go like this.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And Shea talked through all his thoughts. He put on some records for us, so it was a party. But my one question, I guess, coming out of it is you do a confessional and you kind of talk through when you're in exile that we don't get to see, well, if this happens, I might do this. Did you ever think at that point, because you're in exile for like, I want to say over an hour.
Which was unexpected for me, by the way. I don't know why in my head, but I thought the whole turnaround for this first vote, because we had the overnight, I thought you were going to give very small time in breakout rooms. And I thought it was going to be, potentially quick challenge. I thought this whole thing would have been 45 minutes. But I'm in there for, like you said, over an hour.
Over an hour. Did you ever think, I need a plan for what I'm going to do because everyone's going to think I have an idol?
No, to be honest with you. I mean, like it was, I'd started to think through, like the problem is that if you come in there with some sort of a plan, how do I put this? So the real downside of the game plan that I have is that I can't, like that idea of being open to everybody also means I have no real influence. Right? Like I maybe would be able to go, to Zucker and Ashley and be like, we need to vote this person. But they're so logical and conservative that the only way to do that is they're going to go, what other two do you have? Right? And so like, what other two would I be able to somehow get into a target and somehow get those two into a break room and have Ashley and Zucker actually believe that those two are actually going to do what they're going to say. Right? So like after thinking that through, I'm like either Lex wins, in which case I'm fine because you just left Lex here and they're going to choose to probably go him next, right? Or he has enough allies behind him that I'm just falling into that mix, right? And I'm good. Mm-hmm. Or he's gone, in which case my name is probably easily out there. And if I'm not going next vote, I'm going the vote afterward. And that's, exactly what happened.
Yeah. Well, those are all my questions, unless one of the other hosts have any before we go into Facebook. Yeah.
One more. Shea, you got the power to reset a challenge. Sadly, we did not see it be used, but did you like this advantage when you had gotten it? Did you think it was something that it could be useful for your game, or was this kind of like maybe this isn't the best thing I could have found here?
I was hoping for an idol because I would have probably played it immediately and with a threat on my back. You know what I mean? Like it was tough, right? So coming out of it without any safety, was a risk. And it is a very useful thing. I loved it. But I knew it wouldn't be feasible to be super helpful until we get the numbers down, because challenges like that are still an odds game. And I'd have to find something where I can easily still get to the final top 2 or 3 of it to be able to do it. Now I'm fully capable of that. I mean, like I run my own little Shea games. I did one this weekend and went well, woohoo! And they're all a bunch of games I stole from you guys, so thank you. But like, I would show people how to do these things and all stuff we've done. And I crush it. I mean, like I'm the example guy, right? And so I make it look easy. Oh, we're creating this gigantic wobbling stack, just ball after ball after ball. Oh, you're creating a stack 10 Eye of Cups. Done. You know what I mean? We're doing all of these other little things, right? Flip cup. I showed them how to do extreme flip cup, even which is the one I didn't reuse it on because I did so poorly right away. And did all right with that, but not great. And that is unfortunately the one that came out first because I would have burned it as soon as I could if it was something that I was competitive in and thought I could. Namely, just to make sure that people knew the thing I had is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like that would have been a smarter move of me that I did not think of, which is my own downfall too, of just burning it to burn it. So that people aren't suspicious I have an idol. This is what I got. Try again.
Yeah, because we see Austin.
Go ahead.
We see Austin just not believe you.
Yeah.
I think with that, that's not a real thing that he could have.
Well, with his tons of Survivor knowledge.
Yeah, well, this was never in Survivor before, so I think we're all on.
Yeah. Well, we like to invent new things. But if you wanted an idol, all you had to do is start singing Smash Mouth
from
at Tribal Council.
Yeah. All right, Alex, get to those Facebook questions.
Yeah, I got you. I'm just making
Before you
sure.
do that, I was so upset to learn that the stupid bolded leather things all comes to fruition. On the tribal, I'm not there.
And it takes until the very last moment until someone finally goes for it.
Like, rough.
Ugh,
I'm pretty sure it's the tribal wasn't there. Anyway, maybe it wasn't. I missed it.
It was. It was.
it was.
Yeah.
Uh,
Son of a. I was obsessed with that shit. I was so pissed off. I was doing all sorts of things with that.
but yeah, so it's time for the Facebook questions. The
Mhm.
first question is from Ashley. So, Shea, the biggest and most beautiful surprise of the season was getting to know you and the connection that we made. I wasn't surprised by how fun and goofy you were, but your depth, personal story, and your openness were such a welcome surprise. You're a beautiful person, and I'm truly lucky to be able to call you a friend. My questions for you are the following. Do you think tweaking how much of your goofiness versus how much of your deeper, authentic self you show to your fellow players did or would have an effect on how well you do in the game? I feel like I trusted authentic Shea, but had a much harder time reading goofy Shea, and I wonder how much that had an impact on other players in the game.
And that is a great learning that I will take away for a future game because she's 100% right. The biggest downfall, I think, of, me trying to play a chaotic game is to do that well. You can't look chaotic. Like you gotta, you know what I mean, be trustworthy and solid, and then do the chaos, and everybody's like, where the hell did this come from, right? And so that was a real, I think, realization after the game. And Ashley, great question there because of it. I would definitely tweak the game. I would definitely still be, charming, self-effacing Shane, loving everybody up. But the goofier aspects that I was playing up a little bit, I would tone down.
Okay, and then she has a couple more questions for you. One is, what are your top 3 favorite indie pop artists?
Everybody go listen to Churches, or maybe he's a god. Muna is my next favorite new one, Muna. And highly underrated too, but gorgeous sound, Lucius. It's a duo, female duo, and they are immaculate.
All right.
And then this last question from Ashley is very topical. What is the perfect temperature for a hot tub?
Depends on the season. Yeah, so people always think hot tub cold in winter. Absolutely. I like to sit in the 1 to 2, 1 to 3 range. Right now we're getting into this sort of a season where like getting a little warmer is nice, but not too crazy. I actually turned it down because I know I'm going to be in here for a while. So I think this one's at like 98, 99. But like in the summer, actually, I just turned it nice and all the way down so that it's a nice, cool, like little pool.
Nice.
Just to hang out in. And not heated at all.
You learned so much here. The next question is from Michael Zucker. Professor Shea, please impart some of your wisdom and scholarly knowledge with your answer to this question. What is the best life advice you can offer anyone?
Whoa.
This is a big ask.
Yeah, especially when I give you smaller questions at Tribal Council and you're like,
all right,
I'm the wrong person for this.
Here you go. My life advice is this. I think people focus a lot on, are you a cup half empty, a cup half full person? I say break that paradigm and be focused on a filling the cup person. It doesn't matter if it's you, for yourself, for others, just always be looking to fill the cup.
I love that. I actually do really enjoy that philosophy. So that's awesome. And he does finish that by saying, Shea, it was an absolute pleasure getting to play the game with you and getting to know you as the kind, caring, and wholesome person you are.
Yeah, so we played with some beautiful people this time. Good job.
We truly did.
Yeah.
Next is Garsow. Shea, I was so excited to finally play with a fellow Wisconsinite in one of these games. I really enjoyed the chats we had, and it was such a pleasure getting to know you. Which relationship in the game would you say was your strongest? Also, is there a relationship you wished you could have developed further?
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay. So I'm gonna kind of pivot on this one because like I feel like there's two types of relationship, and I feel like these questions you're actually seeing that, right?
Right.
Where like actual human connection was very strong with a number of people very quickly and heavily, which was kind of shocking, Ashley and Lex in particular. But I would say like my strongest in-game relationship for strategic purposes was probably Zucker, and it wasn't even that strong. I just felt like I don't think he would have ever actively tried to get rid of me. And I felt like he did trust me, even if I wasn't necessarily like, future plans, but I wasn't anybody's number two, you know what I mean? Right. So that's, and and as far as like, what relationship do I feel like I wish I could have, developed more. The person asking the question would have been it. I think Garsow, was going to find himself in the center of a lot and another person who's like not at that threat level, who I never really got the chance to like really develop the trust with. Like I knew I'd already tried with an Andrew, and things like that, I don't think I could have done much more with even given time because they were playing their own game and I wasn't a part of it. Garsow, I feel like if I would have been placed in tribe swap with him, we could have been a duo. Especially if Lex isn't there.
Yeah.
And so like that would have been amazing.
The next question is from Andrew Denson. Shea, simple questions. Your non-biased greatest pro wrestling match of all time and the match you've seen the most in your life.
Medium cut, best Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Hell in a Cell 97. Yeah, just great storytelling throughout. It's the debut of Kane. It's fun. And Hell in a Cell is cool. It's like one of the first Hell in a Cell matches, I think. And the one I've seen the most is probably like Royal Rumble 99 because we get together all the time. And watch wrestling and usually put on like whenever there's like sporting events or other stuff, we'll put a second TV up and we'll put like Royal Rumbles in and have everybody draw numbers out of a hat, and whoever's number corresponds to who won, wins the prize. And so that one ends up coming on all the time.
Love that.
Then he says, it was a pleasure getting to meet you in this game. Keep doing your thing.
Yeah, he's a good
Next is Carrie Underwood, PhD. Why did you holler out that Andrew has an idol as you were leaving? I know for Chaos, but why Andrew? And have you been to the Bearden Beer Market? If not, you need to go.
All right, well, I need to go because I have not. So thanks for the pro level tip. Appreciate you, Doc Carrie. And I shouted Andrew. I actually did think about that. That was intentional. I wanted to be somebody that I was working with who voted me out. And I wanted to be somebody who like people wouldn't necessarily believe. Like it was chaos and fun, but it wasn't malicious, if that makes any sense. And out of all the people who I like was kind of half working with or tried to work with, I definitely I didn't think would believe me saying Andrew. Like if I would have put out Zucker or like Ashley or something like that, somebody might have like ran with it a little too much. It wasn't meant to be malicious and like stir up the pot. It was just meant to be a funny aside.
Okay. Next question is from Luke, asking, what was your funniest moment during the season?
Post one of the victories, we had a huge group chat and started talking about creating feet OnlyFans, and it spiraled out of control.
To cocaine FOMO, whatever the heck that was.
Yes, like we had like a whole like 17-word tribe name at one point. Yeah, and I think those like those like post-win early group calls were probably the most fun because we're all just trying to make each other laugh and be silly and kind of celebrate. And I don't know if you saw some of our tribe, but we have some pretty funny, outrageous people. And so like it was a hoot, you know what I mean, with the pressure off. You know what I mean, just a relaxation bonding time of joking around and and getting encouraged to create OnlyFans for chicks into Hobbit feet because I have weird Hobbit feet. I won't tell
Well,
that was where we landed.
Well, with that,
and Ashley's going to make $1 billion because of her ability to pick up ping pong balls with her feet if she ever chooses.
Well, with that, next question is from Lydia. Shea, I so wish I got to meet you and get to know you in this game. If DCP had a Ponderosa show, which of all your fantastic confessional locations would you spend your time?
Oh, God. That's such a good question, too. Lydia, by the way, is probably the person who I didn't get to really play with, who I wish I would have. She seems right up my alley. I hope we get to play in a game eventually. But yeah, not the hot tub. It get too crowded. I'd probably say like
the secret scene in the bathroom.
The secret scene in the bathroom could be a bathroom party. That'd be fun. I should have made a shower one. I never got to get there.
So just throw them all out in the rain.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'll go by the trees. We'll have a campfire and we'll make s'mores. Yeah. What you didn't see when I was facing the trees is that I have a little fire pit up there by it. So
Ooh,
I
nice.
actually was like, yeah. So we'd be all around up by the backyard by the trees with the fire pit.
All right.
Awesome. Next is from Kylie.
Which one?
Player Kylie. Because they both do have questions. But Kylie's is actually game related. Shea, I was hoping to build on the connection we had in Monte Carlo, but it just never got rolling. Do you think that was more your fault or my fault? Honest answer.
Ooh. That's hard. I went to her immediately and I knew she was a threat. I think it's mostly mine. Because I think you got to slow build with Kylie and just kind of keep grinding away at it with phone calls and getting, you know what I mean? And just be persistent and like being active with her. And like, she's so welcoming and kind to a lot of people and like is so very good at, finding connection, like it, no matter what part of life or where you walk, like she will find a Venn diagram of where you two have something in common and live in it. Right. And so I think, and we had that at Monte Carlo. And I think it just was a sake of knowing how she did in Monte Carlo and knowing how she tied in with like somebody like a Mike that made me steer away instead of lean in. And that is something that is a gaffe in Survivor, right? Like you always want to lean in. And so my fault for not. I also did not want, part of the issue with the Kylie thing is that I could start to tell that she was very close to Corey, and I did not want to work with Corey. I could tell that nobody wanted to work with Corey. I could tell that like he seemed like a great dude, seemed probably like a great alliance member. But if you want to talk about vibe checks, like there was vibes happening all over the place, and nobody was mentioning the strongest vibes of Corey outside of like Kylie. And I'm like, I don't want to be on an outsider line. I don't want there to be 4, 5, 6 people over here, and I'm sitting there with Kylie and Corey. I think if Corey wasn't there, me and Kylie end up stronger. Corey pushes so hard early for me, Kylie, Corey, figure the fourth person out. He's hoping Zucker. So hard for that early that I actually had to steer away from him. And it made it hard to even work with a Kylie because I'm like, what do I tell Kylie that's not potentially going to get back to Corey when we're half the time actively working against Corey?
Right.
Yeah. But hey, maybe at one point, Kylie, we'll steer in again. We'll hang out.
Well, I'm gonna just like skip ahead and then do the other Kylie since get the Kylies out of the way. So Kylie Scruggs asks Shea, and she spelled Shea wrong.
Who doesn't? It's a
autocorrect loves changing that where the A and E goes.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I never have an issue with it.
Yeah. But she says, I'm literally in Knoxville. Where should I get dinner tomorrow night?
Oh, there's a few great options. My favorite, my buddy runs is Tupelo Honey in downtown is great. Just solid, really good food. But my favorite thing is probably Kaizen and get the duck soup. It's delicious.
Well, hear that, Kylie. When you listen to this, go there. Next question is from host of the Sunday show, John David Millsip. When you met up with Austin M at the merge, you both committed to stirring up as much chaos as possible. what plans did you have for sowing chaos, and how would you have executed them?
Right. So there were a few things there. I was hoping to find somebody like him who, by all perceptions, was on the bottom, and I think this is a little bit of I'll call it out, a gaffe in his game, of the fact where like you could tell he didn't have the the connections from being voted off initially, like on the original tribe, right? And so like getting a lot of those the Lex and the Kylies and all those sort of people, I think, to vote for him in a finale would have been very difficult, which means like that you have to have a ton of action and you got to make things happen. And that's why I was hoping to partner with him and kind of target him on that. And what I was hoping that would look like is that we could pick random people, like truly random people, and kind of go after just to shake things up, not try to be overly strategic or do this or that or the other thing. So a few of the ideas that I had, right? Number one was definitely stray votes, right? Specifically for people who I felt like had strong social influence, and a level of paranoia. Lex, potentially Kylie. I feel like a Simmons would have been good there, actually. Maddie, I felt like I could have spooked her if like she would have gotten a random vote in the middle somewhere, and been a little curious about it. The second, like I mentioned, that jumping in and dropping names thing, right? Just trying to disrupt there being a very easy vote or split votes. And then the third was just being able to, at a certain point, identify ourselves as a pair and try to jump in on different alliances, right? And maybe try to pull like a pretty random alliance together. And then I was hoping once that would happen to immediately flip on them. So like if my ideal game, and this is by no means realistic, I understand this is terrible survivor logic the whole way. This is all stars and it's fun. And I felt like you're going to have people playing so hard and so logical that just throwing wrenches into things could be beneficial for me. Right. But that would have been the way it would have gone down, where like we have an easy vote out first, but like with a stray vote on like a couple different people. And they're like, whoa, like two, like if I had gotten like 2 votes on a Lex, he'd been freaking out. Right. So like me and Austin M could have put like 2 votes on Lex. Lex starts to go nuts and he's trying to figure out who it is. And we both, then me and Austin M, I hear through Austin M that it's Simmons and Maddie or something, right? And then like the target gets switched over to them, and then we start dropping in and saying, Kylie, I'm hearing your name everywhere. And so Kylie starts freaking out. And then right, and eventually we get down there, and we're able to reveal some of those things that we did that kind of make a name for ourselves.
Love it. We're gonna hit the last few questions now. One is from Sarah. Shea, did we ever stand a chance at becoming the duo people thought we were?
Yes. Anytime. Love you to death. And we could have crushed it.
Awesome. Next one is from Lex. Shea, my dear friend, I'm so happy we were able to play together and get to know each other. You have been such a great friend post-game, and I know it will only get better in time, so thankful to have met you. For my question, what is the album or soundtrack that best describes your game? And from that, if your game had a theme song, what would it be?
Let me look at. Wait, I want to get the exact wording for something.
Well, while you're looking for it, I break the silence. I think a funny one for you would be, for your theme song, would just be like the Pink Panther theme song.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, I got it. Okay, so it's gonna be, and I'll pick a song from okay. So the album is At War with the Mystics. Okay, it's a Flaming Lips. It's an amazing album if you've never heard it. And I say that because I have such respect for so many people in this game for being able to identify where all of those relationships are and see these things coming, and then even putting out like really great believable lies in the middle and keeping track of all of that. And so in this one, we're at battle and I'm at war with these mystics who like have this ability. I don't quite understand how they do it. And on that album, there's a song and it's Haven't Got a Clue. And that's me. The whole time, I think I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to disparage myself as far as that goes. But like, there were some people doing some pretty big things in this game. And little old me was out here just having a lot of fun and building great relationships that are gonna be maintained after this game for sure. And while it may not have panned out that I got to put the chaos that I wanted into the game, I had no clue some of the engines that were worked behind me. I had guesses on that whiteboard of Professor Shea, but that's what they were. Turned out a lot of them had more accuracy than I expected. But I had, no clue. Like Kylie and Karen, no clue. What was the tightness that, Maddie and Austin M and Simmons had? No clue. All of those things.
Yeah. Okay. Last two questions we got from Nick Cannon. Great game, Shea. Loved watching you play and really enjoyed your confessionals. 2 questions below. This one's non-serious. Expectations for Jordan Love and the Packers this year.
Good. I mean, I'm hoping that we go over 500. I think we're capable of it. I think he's a good quarterback.
Awesome. And then the other one is, has the move to Rocky Top met and or exceeded expectations?
Exceeded. I love it here. You all should come. If you do, you always have a place to stay.
Awesome. And now this is where we get into the host questions. So the first one is from me, as always. It's me, Mr. Positivity. I would love for you to think about one positive thing you took away from your All-Star experience.
Mm-hmm. So this one's gonna be kind of meaningful. So the last couple of years have been a little crazy for me. And a big part of that is that I feel like in our lives sometimes there's chaos and there's change, and we kind of hold on to the control that is the one thing that we do have, which is kind of like our identity. And a big thing that came out of All-Stars for me was realizing that every once in a while, it's a really good idea to take a look at that and say, hey, what things still hold true? What things don't? What things have we been ignoring? And being able to connect and, Survivor requires you to come in and be vulnerable, right? And to create relationships fast by revealing things about yourself and that are meaningful. And for me, that meant a lot of things around some of my sexuality, coming out as ace, and just some of the more feminine things, in actions and words and speak, that in prior days I was much more conservative. You may have even seen that like on Alamanu, where like I still am a little outrageous, but it's much more masculine. Mm-hmm. And so like the real positive thing that came out of this for me is just this realization of like, wait a second, like, let's be more me. Like, yes, I came in and just was me fully to all of these people, and it was such a positive, overwhelmingly positive experience that it really challenged me to be more authentic to that out there in life in general, right? Because this Survivor made it easy because they're strangers and it ends in a week. Right? There's very low risk, right, of really putting yourself out there because it's not, going to come back to haunt you in 2 weeks like you are at work or something, right? So that was my learning, and it was been extremely, extremely positive for me in my life.
Well, I'm going to give you best dressed of mini day 1. We haven't seen mini day 2 yet, but definitely get best dressed for mini day 1.
Yeah. With my dino shirt and my hat I made myself.
Yeah, I loved it.
I was painting hats that day.
Well, that leads into Ian has 2 questions he likes to be asked. If you could take somebody from your original season that's on All Stars and replace them from that season that didn't make it onto All Stars, who are you taking out and who are you swapping them with? They go in the same position, so you can't swap.
Only Brittley.
Yeah, it's only Brittley.
Oh, yeah. It's only Brittley.
Yeah, which is hard because Brittley's amazing, and she's a total sweetheart. Man, that is tough. I'm probably going. I mean, like, I know that she's happy and just has her newborn, but Morgan is a powerhouse. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's, like having her out there. I know she was doing prod and was an amazing host the whole season. But wasn't she a player though? Yeah. And so I might lean in there.
Secondary pick that's not prod.
Selena.
Mm-hmm.
Only because like I felt like in this we had a lot of big personalities,
Yeah.
And even a lot of like the females that we did have were very strong as far as like they were very outgoing personalities, and the challenge beastie, and she was so underrated. I felt like that season she worked her way into every conversation and was so smooth, and just as a pure social game player, she was great.
Yeah, she was a vote away from winning.
Yeah, and his second question, who is on your DCP Mount Rushmore, not taking into consideration the season of All-Stars. So people that are on All-Stars can be on it, but nothing that's happened on the season.
Right. Jonathan for winning the big game.
Mm-hmm.
And because from what I've known and saw of him, he's a powerhouse. I think you got to put Karen up there too, for similar reasons. I mean, those winners are big, and they were great winners. I feel if you go placement aside, I feel like a Mike is up there just for personality's sake. Like, he just had an impact, I think, in the game that he was in for a long time. But I don't know if he might be just outside of it. I mean, I feel like Simmons, this game aside, he was a powerhouse in the season he was in. And so, like, I think that he should get some recognition for that too, like challenge beast wise. And Morgan for sure, because she just crushed our season. She got every single thing out there, knew exactly what was happening the whole time. And if she would have just done one challenge, if she gets to the end, she's getting a clean sweep every vote, hands down. So yeah, I guess I go for sure Morgan, Karen, Jonathan, and then that fourth one is a little bit up for grabs. I guess I lean towards Simmons.
All right.
Okay.
All right, and our final question to round us out, if you could sum up your game in one word, what would it be and why?
I'd probably go with silly, because that's what it was. I mean, like, I had never took it too seriously. I had a blast the whole time with it. I tried my best for the actual game. Now, the relationships were very deep. But silly, you know what I mean? Like, even the moves I made didn't make a lot of sense at times.
I love that.
Trying to go for chaos, like with Austin, for instance, in like one conversation I had, like, why in the hell would he do that? Like, why would the hell you trust me? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah,
well,
I think it's a good one. Yeah.
Thank you so much for playing, Shea. You are a blast and brought so much to this season. So we thank you for giving your all. And as always, we are Dynamic Character Productions. Catch us for more exit interviews, episodes, and the Sunday show on Sundays. Tune in next time. Goodbye.